Hey guys, how we doing? Welcome back to Football Forum. We're joined by Dean Wixon, head coach of the Comets women's team. How you doing, Dean? Oh, we there?
Mate, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Good. So we've already got a few people on, which is good. Don't forget, guys, if you are in, give us a like, whatever, engage, so we know who you are and we can say hello and all that good stuff. So it's good to have a few eyes on already. Dean, thanks for coming on. I suppose to start with, do you want to give us a bit about your history, about sort of playing and coaching back home and over here, and just a bit of a rundown on yourself?
Yeah, mate. I weren't much of a player. Played my highest level of football in the men's when I was 14. And it all went downhill from there. But I got into the coaching pretty early. I worked out I was pretty crap, so I got into coaching at 19, 20 with little kids and tiny little junior stuff. And then I moved over here when I was 23, 24, got into coaching the women's game. So, and haven't really looked back in the 7, 8 years since. So, started off at State League One with South Yarra and did that for a while. Did a bit of junior stuff. Went home, and probably the best thing I've done so far, I guess, is I went back home for a year and I worked at Charlton Athletic for a while in the women's program, and that was a sensational experience. Came back, and then I've been floating around the Victorian Women's NPL and recently VPL with KC.
Beautiful. How was that experience with Charlton Athletic? What sort of stood out for you in that experience, Gate?
It's unreal, mate. Like we worked out at the training ground that the men use of an evening, and it was the same one their men used in the Premier League. So at the time, the Belgian guy that's there now had just started owning the club, and there was some serious money being put in. I mean, they had £1 million AstroTurf, a £500,000 AstroTurf, and they were building two more.
Yeah, beautiful.
So there was some serious money going in, and I mean, there were carpets, and it was great, just the experience of professional footballers in and around the place, watching the men's coach taking the under-16s and stuff before our sessions. It was sensational. Worked with some great coaches. Made a really good friend there, Luke Brown, who was S&C coach, and one of the other coaches. It was just a hell of an experience. Crystal Palace away, QPR away, games like that. It was it was a bit different, and then you come back to Australia
You're in Cranbourne.
You're playing. You're playing Eltham away. It's not quite the same buzz. No disrespect to Eltham, but it's not quite the same.
Yeah. Oh, what an experience, mate. That's awesome. And I mean, for a lot of younger people in Australia especially, they probably wouldn't have been aware that Charlton Athletic were quite a decent Premier League team. Back in the day, back when I was growing up, they were a decent team and a decent outfit, and definitely a club with a bit of history there, so a good club to be involved in.
Yeah. Look, it was a great buzz, and you're walking around the playground. I mean, I'm sitting in my office. I've got a couple of Charlton Athletic shirts up here signed by the girls and stuff. It was it was a hell of an experience, and I'm like you, mate. I'm the same sort of age. Charlton were an established Premier League club through my teenage years, and even in the women's game, they won the FA Cup in 2005.
Yeah.
Like they were a huge women's club before the WSL came along, and teams like Man United bought in because they had to. Charlton Athletic was sort of leading the way there with Arsenal, Notts County, and Doncaster Bells.
Yeah, I was going to say Doncaster Bells were a big team back then, and a team that many people wouldn't have even heard of, to be fair. But they were the sort of cutting edge for women's football back in the day.
Yeah, Notts County. I think that's actually the license or place that Manchester United bought out, and Doncaster Bells, I think, was what Liverpool bought out as part of their Premier League obligations to have a women's team. And It's actually a bit of a shame because those two were guiding lights in the women's game back home.
Yeah, we still see a lot of players kicking around in the WSL at the moment that are ex-Doncaster Bells and all that sort of stuff. So it's
mate, yeah. So no, yeah, like Charlton were a huge club at the time, and they're getting back there now, and it's. But like I say, yeah, it's very different. Some of the away fixtures we used to go to, and bit different in the VPLW, but there we go.
Oh, mate. And what would you say?
I'll tell you what, just quickly, there was one we played Brighton and Hove Albion away, and we played at their men's training complex. Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. Brighton and Hove's training complex is state of the art, and this is a couple of years before they got in the Prem.
Yeah, right. I'm hoping to get back home and see a lot of this sort of stuff, but some more of the behind the scenes sort of things. But yeah, so and what would you say, like, so for sort of Australians watching and stuff like that, what would you say are some of the big differences you've noticed between coaching back home and coaching in Australia in terms of some of the differences and some of the different challenges involved? And
there's heaps. I mean, I guess a big one I found is terminology.
Yeah.
You know, like there's certain terminology that I use, and the girls just look at me like I'm talking Chinese or something. They've got absolutely no idea what I've said, and I have to sort of go back and sort of explain it, and then they have to learn my terminology because I just slip back into it, and that can always be quite a fun one. I think that's a big one in terms of the communication. But look, in all, as I've already touched on, like just the names and the prestige of some of the clubs, it is very different. It's very weird to kind of get my head around without being disrespectful to the teams in Australia. It's just not what I grew up with. That's a different one, and sort of facilities wise, it's very up and down.
Yeah.
In terms of the grounds we played at with Charlton, there was one ground that stood out as being horrendously bad, and that was Crystal Palace away. It was an awful ground that they played on. But here, that's kind of more 50-50 across your league.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. 100%.
Even NPL standard, it's 50-50.
Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, speaking of, I remember when coaching in the NPL, probably the worst experience I had was we went away to Springvale White Eagles. I don't know if you've been there.
Yeah, it's just down the road from me.
Oh my days! I had a laugh with the boys. I don't know if any of my boys are in the chat, but they're like, "Oh, what's the starting 11 coach?" I'm like, "Whoever makes it out of this changing room alive starts the match. Let's go." There was holes in walls, holes in ceilings. I'm like, it's like it looked like something out of Saw.
That's it. I remember first game I ever coached for the 19s against Southern United when they played at Frankston Pines, and it wasn't that long after I'd moved back from being at Charlton. I was like, my last game was like, I think it was like AFC Wimbledon away at home. Yeah. Sorry, and then like, not that long after I'm at bloody Frankston Pines, and it was a bit of a dive at that point. It may be good now, mate, but it was I felt like I needed to get my needles out just to fit in. It would say, I think that's a big, that was a big thing. And there's no, a big debate, but there's no reason for the facilities to be so up and down over here. There's enough space.
Yeah, I hear the argument all the time. There's different sports, blah blah blah, but we've got just as many sports back home as well, competing for the same grant. So. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. Spaces as well at home, by the way.
Say that again, sorry?
Tighter spaces at home, by the way. You haven't got acres and acres to play 100%,
with. Especially around London and all in around there. But yeah, so we'll just say some hellos quickly. Stephen Birch has liked the stream. Peter Natsis has liked the stream. Thanks for coming in, guys. Troy Spencer and Edvin, how you doing, guys? Thanks for popping in. If you guys have got any questions for Dean regarding football back in England, football over here, anything like that, jump in, join in, no problems, we'll get those questions answered. And yeah, so what I mean, so here's an interesting question. I just thought of this one actually. So if you look at the gap between the sort of the men and the boys back home, between the men and the boys over here, and the girls back home and the girls over here, where would you say the bigger gap would be?
Well, that is a good one.
Because
That is a good one. Probably the women.
really,
I think the women's is a big jump. So say I was at childhood development, which was, we worked alongside the seniors to an extent, but the devs, I would expect to have finished in the top four of the NPL.
yeah,
And that's over here the equivalent to a 19 side. And I remember, I guess it's the attitude as well, Dave,
yeah,
because I remember we lost to Crystal Palace away, and me and the other coach, we were in the office being bastard because we shouldn't be losing a development game to Crystal Palace, right? One of our girls did her ACL in that game, and yeah, we were poor. The pitch was a paddock, but that attitude to me was that with Charlton Athletic, we don't lose those games.
yeah.
Here, oh, you lost to your local rivals. You gave it a go. That's a big difference, and I think that shows in the quality of play. I do think that shows in the quality of player, and I think some of those players would be more than capable of hitting top levels in this country, especially NPL level.
Yeah, nice. It's always an interesting question, that one, because when I look at it, if you look at the international teams, I'd say that the women's team is, if you compare them from the level they're at, you'd say the women's team is probably ahead of the men's team in terms of development over here for the international teams. At least from my sort of point of view, you got the women's team sort of fighting for World Cups and the men's team fighting for qualification at the moment. So.
But also the average, the number of good men's teams is a lot higher than the number of top women's teams internationally.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's that. There's probably realistically there's probably 15 top women's sides in the world.
Yeah.
Men's, you look at 50th in the world rankings, they're still a decent. I don't know who it is, but if it's a Ghana or something,
yeah,
they're a decent. So you look at 50 in the women's, it doesn't have that depth yet. So that probably plays its part.
Yeah, 100%. All right. So, did you coach? I didn't catch. Did you coach like any men's football or sort of boys football or anything like that?
Yeah. When I was back home, I was. Here we call it a technical director, but it was just club head coach back there. But with a team that had Kent Youth League teams across all the ages, so sort of regional top level sides. There were some good players in there, some really good players at that club, and I enjoyed working with the boys. I did a year of it, working with that Kent Youth League side, and would again I guess would be a top NPL side at that age group. It's just live and breathe football, mate. Like live and breathe football, proper football, and proper football nuts. A lot of them, and it was. I enjoyed the junior boys, but and I wouldn't ever rule out going into it again.
Beautiful. And what would you say was some of the different challenges you had between sort of that junior football and that senior football? Where would you say some of the different challenges are between the two?
Yeah, that's a good one actually, that mate. That is a good one. It depends. I think a lot of it depends on your club as well.
100%.
Because you would argue that the results versus development, and I'm a firm believer that a lot of people use the word development to cover up for losing games all the time. So, like people go, oh yeah, but I'm developing players. Well, you're not. You've lost 70% of your games. But like, so junior football, you can get away with that a bit more. I think senior football, obviously the results-based nature of it, which is, people can say that's wrong, but that is football, and that is competitive sport. That's a big jump to get your head over. I've found this year at Casey, from junior stuff of I can pride myself on 2 or 3 players playing seniors and finishing respectively compared to comparatively to what players we've got. Senior football, that doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
You've got to try and get results, and you're always going to be up against a club with bigger resources financially, better facilities, and you've still got to somehow muddle with them and mix it, and that's a gear change. That's a definite mind shift and a gear change.
100%. We've actually got
which I don't know if I've got it bang on yet.
I don't think we ever do. We're always learning, aren't we? So I've got a question in for you. Here we go. So one for Dean Wixon. This is from Stephen Birch. He says, how big is the gap between the English women's leagues? So his team is the Wolves women, and they're currently undefeated in the Northern Premier League. Would they be able to get themselves into the Women's Super League?
No. It's massive. It's huge. It's huge. Fair play to him following a national Northern Premier League side. That's the 3rd tier. Fair play. No, it's a huge gap. So, say a fair few of there's probably 5 or 6 development players from Charlton when I was there 3.5 years ago, now playing the Southern Premier League for Gillingham.
Yeah, right.
So they couldn't make it into that Charlton Athletic senior side, so they dropped down a division to play for Gills. And and they would be, unless they dramatically improved, that they would be a fair way off that senior standard for Championship. And then obviously the gap from Championship to WSL is almost expanding.
Yeah, I mean, you see that gap just between the top teams in the WSL and the bottom teams in the WSL.
Yeah, it'll close, Dean. It will close, and because there's a fair few clubs in that Championship now that are fully pro or turning fully pro. Charlton just turned pro this season, from their social media stuff. So it will get better. People think that you turn pro and immediately you're going to be great. It doesn't work like that. But look, it will close. But all it does is you might close that gap between the WSL and the Championship with fully professional. Or you're going to do is expand the gap between the professional Championship and the semi-pro Northern Premier League, for example.
100%. Eddie McCullum Sr. In my opinion, teaching kids to be good on the ball is what is good, but we need to teach them at teens what they do off the ball as senior players. That's the difference for me. So it's a big question I've had for a long time, because I am one of those, and I've learned to lose. I've learned to lose for younger age groups. When I say I've learned to lose, I've learned not to show it in publicly how peeved I am about it. But I am one of those hyper competitive people, and I just hate losing. My wife will tell you, absolutely ruins my weekend. So I've had to sort of learn to temper that around kids and stuff like that. But one of the questions I've always had with this development thing, at what point do you say to kids, right, we need to start developing you to win games? Because for me, to get to 16s and go, still developing, and then bang, seniors, win now or get out, that's a massive jump. Surely there needs to be a bit of a bridge in there somewhere.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Yes, in that junior level, you're worrying about that individual player. And then all of a sudden you're asking. I did it with the 19s at Bayside. I tried to make it a halfway house. The result was always important, and players were asked to do a job for the team to try and gain that result. But it is a big ask if they're doing juniors and then all of a sudden they've got a senior coach telling them to, I don't care how many step overs you're doing, get back and defend that hole. Yeah. It's a big jump. It's a big jump, and yeah, I think that's a really good point. That's a really good point. The focus shifts on what you're trying to teach players. Yeah, it's a good point.
And I think we've got to a point, in my opinion, we've got to a point where people are almost too scared to go into this, we want to win this game, and say it out loud, because they're going to get smashed, because it's not about winning and it's about everyone having a fair go. But the kids I've coached and the kids I've spoken to, they know if they're winning or losing. So why are we... You're almost treating them like idiots.
And mate, every game I go into on that whiteboard says win the game, top target.
Yeah.
That is what football is about. You know, like, we can get over a loss, but if you're going in there to lose a game, you're not playing football. It's almost the same as match fixing for me.
Yeah. The other question is, if we're working on development, what are you developing towards if it's not winning the game?
Well, you're not developing a winning attitude, are you, or a winning mentality?
No.
You can't tell me that the top players in the world their teams were happy when they lost. You know,
Mate,
of course
I've
they
come
were.
across a team.
May not. It won't. The difference is then what people forget is, if winning is your only focus, there's an
100%.
issue for juniors. 100%. If it's your only focus, if it's one of two or three, that's different.
Yep.
So if you're just, we will win at all costs, and I will berate young kids for not doing it, that's a problem. If your main aim is win, do X on the ball, X, Y, Z off the ball, that's a different, because you can still succeed in 1, 2, 3 of those things.
Yeah, 100%.
You can still do A, B, C on the ball. Okay, we did that section, but we didn't do the other two. That's fine.
Yeah, 100%.
That's development.
And in my experience, these kids want to be pushed. Like I said, they know when they're losing. They don't feel good about it, and they're not dumb. Me coming in going, it doesn't matter, guys. We wanted to work on this. We did that well, right? They don't care. They know they've lost the game and they're upset about it. And I don't think beating around the bush and trying to hide a loss and what they're feeling behind, it's all in the name of development. I don't think that helps players develop.
Mate, under 12s don't have ladders, right? They don't have a league system. They don't keep scores. You've just coached an under 12 team. Do they know what the score was at the end?
Yeah, 100% they do.
Of course they do. Of course they do. Because you cannot keep it theoretically, but when they play that team again next, we beat these 10-0.
Yeah.
They're not.
I go up to our under 9s because I've being TD at Pakenham, I try and be involved with all the kids, and one of the big things I focused on was that pathway from juniors to seniors and making it feel like one big club. And you go up to under 9s after their game and just go, how did you play? We won, or we lost. Not how they've personally done, straight to win or loss. And I'm like, no, how did you play? You know what I mean? But
and that's
under 9s, they know. You know, you're talking about 7, 8-year-old kids. They know if they've won or lost. So
I don't think we shouldn't be knocking that out of people or kids. We should be tailoring it to, okay, so that one failed, you didn't win, but did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? You know, some days they'll get all of it, other days they'll get some of it. But if it's part of a bigger picture, that's healthy. I think it's unhealthy.
100%. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a life lesson as well. When you grow up, you go for a job interview, you get it or you don't. You know what I mean? So it's there's no beating around the bush. There's no coach running around the corner when you don't get the job. It's all right, mate. We'll work on the next one. It's you've either got it or you didn't, mate. So anyway, shall we move on? Have you got any? I know we talking about the Premier League, Champions League. Was there any key games you wanted to bring up?
Like I said on my post when I advertised this, I'm an Arsenal fan. I haven't watched the Champions League for 5 or 6 years. I guess the biggest shock in there obviously was Sheriff beating Real Madrid at the Bernabeu, which is
absolutely amazing result.
Restores your faith a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The multi-millions and the multi-millions pounds doesn't mean everything. And I saw the goals, and I tell you what, the second goal was an absolute stonker.
Yeah.
Like, it was a cracker of a goal. He's hit it ridiculously well. But yeah, no, I think that was a great one to look at, and maybe that arrogance that Real Madrid maybe go around with isn't quite as justified as it once
Puts
was.
that Super League into perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, I said Arsenal, mate. I don't know if we have any right to be involved in a conversation like that at the moment. But
yeah, well, say for Tottenham, when
Super
they said
League,
Tottenham was involved, I'm like, how are Tottenham involved? What have they won?
Well, exactly. So you're looking at it going, yeah, like you take away that big dog, little dog story. I think that was a good. I think it's a result that the Champions League probably needed.
That's the magic of football right there.
In my opinion.
That's the magic of football right there. Eddie McCullum Senior. A loss makes you a player. Yeah, 100%. Got to learn to lose for sure. You learn more in a loss than you do in a win, don't you? So.
Yep.
Chelsea is shit. Come on, Eddie. None of that. And Carl Cochran would have scored that. Carl Cochran is a bet. Have you heard of Carl Cochran, Dean Wixon?
No.
Absolute star, mate. He was playing State 1 senior football at like 45 years old. He's from back home. He's from back home as well. Quality, mate. He ended up being the reserve coach for Pakenham, like the Pakenham men's this year. He was the reserve coach alongside Eddie McCullum Senior, who's in the chat. But he'd still, at 50, I think he just turned 50 or 51. Sorry, Carl. He'd still put on the boots and be the best player on the pitch. Like, he'd go out, sub himself on for 15, 20 minutes and still be the best player on the pitch. It was mental. Absolutely mental. Yeah. It's quality, mate. Absolute quality. And just really good knowledge of the game.
But that goes to it, though, mate. Like, that tells you the difference. You're talking about juniors being different.
Yeah.
That tells you that a bloke who's, I'm going to assume this, can't move for his age, but he doesn't need to be. If you have an intrinsic knowledge of the game and able to read the game, which is something that is incredibly hard to teach, and it only comes with being born and bred on football. Yeah. It comes with just watching the game, loving the game. You can still go out and play like that, eh?
100%. 100%. Yeah, so some other results from around the Champions League. Shakhtar Donetsk 0, Inter Milan 0. I'm a bit surprised with that one. I mean, Shakhtar are generally a decent team, but Inter, I thought, should be getting a result there. It was away from home, to be fair. Eddie McCullum Senior, he is a pro from back home. Oh, yeah, he is. Carl Cochran was a pro back home. Yeah. Very, very good player. But yeah, I mean, regardless.
Yeah, no, that tells you the difference. That tells you the difference. Just State
League 5 to back home pro. Yeah, massive. Massive. I mean, he's probably, 30 odd years, not 30, 20, 25 odd years out of his prime and still quality. Ajax 2-0, they continue their good run. Ajax 2-0 against Besiktas. There we go, the Sheriff Real Madrid game. Easily the result of the round. Milan 1, Atletico Madrid 2. Milan did get a red card in that game. That was another thing we talked about last week. The first round of Champions League, I think out of, I can't remember exactly, like 11 games, there was 6 games where there was red cards or something. It was crazy.
That's because you're not allowed to tackle anyone anymore.
Not in the Champions League. You see they changed that in the Premier League. They're not calling it as much now.
They're not putting it as much. And also, if your hand's on the park at any point, you could possibly get a red card for a handball now, can't you?
Mate. So. It's the inconsistency of that, though, because there was a handball. Obviously, the Reece James, I don't know if you've seen that, the Reece James handball against Liverpool, red card, sent off penalty, blah, blah, blah. And the argument, for myself included, was it came off his knee first. I understand his arm looks to have moved, especially in slow motion. It looks way worse in slow motion than it does at live speed.
That's the problem.
But why are you looking at it in slow-mo when it's happened at live speed? You know what I mean? But
well, it's an interesting one. Like, definition of unnatural position for your arm. Like, I think you're supposed to be Mr. Tickle to get your arm out of the way of it. Do you know what I mean?
It's mental. It's like.
Having said that, Virgil van Dijk could catch the ball in his hands, footy kick it away, and he wouldn't get a penalty against it.
Probably not.
Like Teflon Virgil.
Teflon Virgil.
Right.
But there was another handball. What game was I watching? It was a clear as day handball, absolute clear as day. And the ref goes, "No, off the knee first." I'm like, "Well, hang on a
Yeah.
second. Where's the consistency here?" But yeah, Dortmund go away to Dortmund at home against Sporting, 1-0 win. So Dortmund will be pretty happy with the way they're tracking so far. PSG, Messi finally scores his first goal for PSG, probably the second biggest story over the weekend, midweek, should I say?
Yeah.
And it was worldy. Did you see Messi's goal?
Yeah. Good little play, good little pass in, little layoff. I thought was good under pressure, and he's obviously just
Picked it.
he's never been one to cream the ball in the net, as he just sort of like, he just
spot.
sort of strokes it in. Yeah. He's be interesting to see how he goes in the French league, because my one criticism's always been of the Spanish league that no one likes defending.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, I think pretty average strikers go over there and score a lot of goals.
Yep.
You know, a lot of failed Premier League strikers will nip over there, get their goal tally up, and then move on. So it'll be interesting in the French league, where teams will be a little bit more reserved against him.
Yeah.
And obviously Manchester City got some world class defenders, and he's torn them apart there. But
yeah. He is quality, no doubt about it. But he's not off to the fastest start that's his first goal, and he's played 4 or 5 games for him now. Yeah. So not the Messi we know.
Yeah, that may be the difference. That slightly more defensive mindset, slightly more team ethic that teams will have against PSG. It's going to make it. It's an interesting move, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Liverpool absolutely slapped Porto, 5-1 in Porto. No surprise there. Liverpool absolutely dominating at the moment, which is why I had them as favourites at the start of the year. And to be fair, they're looking the goods.
I do have an irrational hatred of Liverpool. I literally have no reason to. I just, I'm not.
I also am not a fan. Obviously, being Chelsea, they're one of our major rivals. So,
I just think that the front three are on their day unplayable, untouchable. But they play some stuff that I'm just. If you watch their football, there's an awful lot of Virgil van Dijk playing a big diag for someone to run onto, and if Burnley do that, it's hit and hope football.
Yeah.
But because Liverpool are doing it, it's an incisive pass. Do you know what I mean?
Because Virgil van Dijk's doing it.
Well, mate, I mean, he's the fall guy for me. I don't think he's what he's claimed to be, and he's got that in his locker.
I think he's a quality defender, absolutely no doubt about it. But he bends over in Liverpool. He bends over and the sun shines at his ass, doesn't it? So.
Oh mate, 100%. And I think he gets put in conversations with the likes of Terry, Vidic, Ferdinand, Adams.
He's done it for 2 years, and
Campbell.
he's in those conversations. It's ridiculous.
Well, exactly, and he got one slightly hard tackle from Pickford, and he was out for a year. So,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He's not the tough cookie that everyone makes out, and you know.
And that's the problem with Liverpool. They're always that Virgil van Dijk injury away from problems again. They struggled big time without him, didn't they? So.
Ian, look at what they did against Brentford, by the way. Virgil van Dijk had that been Phil Jones, he would have been ridiculed, by the way.
Yeah.
That's my issue with the way people view football nowadays. Centre back should be judged on tackles, blocks,
clean sheets,
headers,
yeah,
defending. Do you know what I mean? Like, and there was two of the 3 goals I thought he was pretty poor. So. They have that frailty in them, and look, let's have it right. Porto wouldn't be getting in one of the bigger leagues, so
no, 100%.
They probably should be spanking Porto if they've got any chance of going further. So, but they are a good side. They are a very, very good side.
100%. Billy Wilson nil. I also hate Liverpool. Yes, you do, mate. And he says, "What are your guys?" Here you go. Here's a good question for you, mate. What are your guys' aspirations for next seasons with your own clubs? I'll let you go first.
Me? We're in one of the few leagues in Australia that have promotion and relegation. So obviously avoid relegation and try as hard as we can to get promotion. Not going to be easy, but yeah, push with what we got.
It's a pretty tight league you're in, to be fair, isn't it? So from what I've seen of the results, I don't know if COVID and the breaks and all that sort of stuff played much of a part, but it kind of looked like anyone could beat anyone on their day.
On their day, yeah, but what you found is the top two teams had much bigger budgets and brought in quality with that budget.
Yep.
It's all well and good having a big budget, but they spent the money wisely, and that's what sees you through over a season.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, like we the top two teams, we got competitive games against both of them, and we couldn't quite nudge them. But over the season, that quality is where it shows. But look, I'm confident we'd have finished fourth and we'd have built on that, and then who knows? But we'll reshape and go again, and yeah.
As for me, Billy, I am still up in the air with exactly where I am and what team I've got and all that sort of stuff. I've got a few offers on the go, so it's kind of hard for me to have an aspiration. But my aspiration going into any team that I take over is to win as many games as I possibly can. So that's it. I will go in with that mentality. I'll try and win as much as I can. I'll try and win playing attractive football. Having said that, if you've got to get ugly to get a win, you've got to get ugly to get a win. So that's about as much as I can say at the moment until I know exactly where I'm at and what I'm doing. And we've sort of figured out which one of these offers is sticking and what we're doing. I can't really say. So what are your aspirations, Billy? You staying at Thunder, mate? So Billy's the under-16s coach at Dandy Thunder for your...
Yeah.
He's also a Tottenham fan.
Yeah.
Where were we? So, Leipzig lost to Bruges at home, 2-1. It's another one. Leipzig have just been absolutely smashed by Dortmund, though. Dortmund have just come in and bought everyone from Leipzig. They even bought their psychologist or something, didn't they? Did I see that right? They bought their psychologist or something like that? Absolute mental.
I don't know, mate.
Yeah.
It's sort of
Bayern, sorry, not Dortmund.
There's a feeder club system in Germany.
Yeah. Sorry, it's Bayern that came in and bought everyone and bought... They even... they actually got their psychologist over.
Yeah.
Crazy.
No, they took the coach from there, though. It makes kind of sense when they took the coach, Nagelsmann or whatever his name is. He's
stuff follows.
But it's a feeder club. So Germany's a sort of... It's all geared towards a national team, isn't it?
Yeah.
You play well at one of these other clubs, you go to Bayern, you play for the national team.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Remy's popped in. Hey, Dino. Hey, Remy. How you doing, mate? Hope you're doing well. Remy is coaching a women's team as well, actually. So, are you still at Mornington, I think you're at? Is that right, Remy? Atlanta beat Young Boys 1-0. Atalanta are actually a very good attacking team to watch as well. If you haven't, and this goes for everybody watching, Atalanta play some really nice attacking football. Zenit beat Malmo 4-0. Probably not a game that would have got too much attention, I'd imagine. Wolfsburg 1-1 with Sevilla. Sevilla are the Europa League experts, aren't they? They don't do too well in the Champions League. There you go. So Remy's at Mornington State 3 Women's.
Yeah, nice.
State
3 Women's. It's a hard gig, mate. That's a hard gig.
Here's what I found, right? So from obviously coaching NPL, State 5, the difference I see is mainly in the hunger of the players. So there's probably State 5 players watching this going, I'm hungry, but when it's not until you go to that level and you see the players in that environment that you probably understand what I'm trying to say. Obviously yourself being at Charlton as well, that people think they're hungry, but then you go to that elite level, and I suppose for us, NPL over here is at elite level, and that's when you see what the hunger really is. They're there 3, 4, 5 days a week, and then when they're not there, they're at a school that's football, they go into academies that's football, blah blah blah, and that's the difference. Like their every waking moment is football. So that team I coached at Dandy City in the NPL, Majority of that team went to footballing schools where a third of their education was based around football. They had academies they went to as well, and they were doing 3 days a week training and a game a week NPO as well. So they're really pushing. Where do you reckon in the women's structure that starts to? Because for me, I reckon state 3, you'd start to see a little bit of that sneaking in, but you'd still be caught sort of somewhere in the middle, in no man's land almost.
I don't think it's a level thing as much. It's more of an age thing. So the women's football generally, top players are breaking in at W League clubs at 16, 17, 18. Okay, so generally speaking, if you're going to be a player, you're at state 1 seniors, BPL, MPL 19. You're in the hunt at 16, 17. So but the hunger's different as well, mate. You have to remember female football and female interest in football as a whole is a fairly new thing. You know, I'm only 30. There wasn't many girls at my school that watched football.
Yeah, 100%.
Like regularly watched football. I think that's a thing that's evolved over the last 10 years. And I would imagine possibly 10 years, here. Obviously, the time difference and etc. makes it incredibly hard.
Yeah.
I think state 3 is still, and there's bad connotations to this word, but I don't mean it like that. State 3 is more of a social level of football.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, I've coached the state 3 side, and there were some good footballers there. Yeah. There were some good footballers, and you find good players that drop down into that because of work commitments and careers, because there isn't the money to be made in women's football that there are in men's.
Yeah, 100%.
That's so you get those good players that have played a good level that drop into state 2, 3, and that drives a bit of hunger, but it's just a different game, mate. It just is a different mindset to these players. You know, and so there should be, because if they get to the top level, they're still not made. There's still not a career's worth of money to be made.
Yeah, well, definitely not something they can retire on. That's for sure.
You know, whereas there's a perception over here that if I make it as a footballer as a boy, they think if they work hard enough, they'll definitely get it. Yeah. And if they do get there, the money rewards are huge. Yeah. Females, I think, are a bit more. They have more forethought in that and go, well, the top I can do is the W League. That's a 3-month. Yeah. You know, the financial resources aren't there. But I think there's drive, but it's just different. It's just, it presents itself in a different manner to what we would ordinarily see in the men and the boys.
Yeah. I know you haven't got too much longer, so I'll try and race through some of these questions and stuff like that. So, Billy Wilson Neal, he says, really good mentality to have. His aspirations for next season at Thunder with his 18s is to try and get Division 1 again to play against the top teams in Victoria. But it will be different. Oakley and Bentley have good under-17s from last year. He's looking to have a rebuild for some of his 16s and a few players from outside, and recruiting some quality players to challenge for Div 1 next season. That's some good aspirations. He actually got into... Hey?
I've got a question back there, Dino, which is, how do you attract players? What's your selling point when they're having to pay $2,000? Because it's not like senior football where you can try and attract them with money and facilities. How do you differentiate yourself as an NPL coach when you're gonna then ask them to pay a good amount of money?
Yeah, I'll let Billy answer that one, and I'll give you my response after him. Remy, he says, pretty good quality. Yep, you're spot on. He's talking to you there. You're spot on, Dino. Eddie McCallum Senior, Spanish payment cap for clubs will kill them. Why is it different for each club? Do you know much about the old payment cap the Spanish leagues put in?
I don't know too much about it, to be honest.
Basically, Eddie, it's all structured off of revenue versus debt, blah, 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 blah. So basically, Barcelona's salary cap is so low because they're in so much debt, whereas Real Madrid aren't in that much debt. They have a much higher salary cap, and So Real Madrid have the highest salary cap. They have the highest revenue in the league, less debt, and the lowest earners in the league also have the lowest salary cap. So it literally just comes straight off of their earnings at the end of the day, and it's there to eliminate teams going into debt like Barcelona keep doing. So it's tough, and yeah,
exactly. That's
say that again. Sorry.
That seems strange to me, Dean, because aren't Real Madrid bankrolled by the government?
Yeah, well, that's why they're not in debt. So
that's up there with the unfair advantage of Man City having the old sheikhs.
It's exactly the same sort of deal. Yeah, 100%, and probably not exactly fair, but that is what it is. Remy, yeah, so true. Dean, different mindsets, talking about the women's game and stuff. And Eddie McCullum Senior, Jacinta. Oh mate, Jacinta's a gun. She, absolute quality player. So Jacinta couldn't get a game in State League One or Pro in Australia, but she now plays for Celtic. Women need to go Pro in Australia. And a little bit of a backstory around that. She not only is playing at Celtic, she originally got signed by West Ham. She's a local girl from Pakenham. Absolute quality player, mate. So the first team I ever coached was actually a State 5 senior women's team. Jacinta's sister Jasmine was my captain. Jacinta was only 12 or 13 at the time. She used to come down and train with us. And you talk about hunger. This girl woke up 5 every morning, straight out in the backyard to do agility training, ball work, bang, bang, bang. Goes to school, lunch breaks, football, comes home, homework, football. Comes to training with women at 12, 13 years old, football. Just unreal. And, you know.
Yeah. I remember commentating for the NPL live stream on a game with her in it. You try saying her last name under pressure.
Galabashvi.
Galabashvi or whatever it was. Yeah. And I think I ended up calling her number 5 or whatever it was at the time. But look, but again, and this kind of goes back to your development to senior football. She broke into the Alamein side at 15, 16 years old under Sinisa, who was high intensity football. maybe this is just a hypothesis, that jump from junior NTC type football into a system. So the development, the shift from how you play into playing into a system may have been quite hard.
Yeah.
And then the sheer ability got at the... Look, I don't know much about the Scottish League, but I don't think it's anywhere near the standard of the WSL. But it may end up being a route back in. But undoubtedly that Jacinta can play football, whether or not the attitude or the shift in dynamic from junior to seniors maybe killed her a little bit over here.
And she's still crazy.
I don't know if I've
she's
made
still
that.
18, 19. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying, Dean, with these younger girls breaking a lot younger, than likewise their careers generally finish a bit earlier as well.
Yeah.
Like if they make most female players, if they hit 30 and they're still playing, because they've been playing professionally since they were 15, 16.
Yeah. Christopher FC, hello. Hey, Christopher, good to see you again, mate. Hope you're doing well. Eddie McCullum says she's been playing in the Champions League as well. So, amazing exposure for her.
Yep. Champions League qualifiers or whatever with Celtic, yeah, fair play.
Yeah, well, it's all going to help her. And maybe that ends up in her being a professional back over here further down the track. I would imagine it would with the... She's already built a decent little resume for herself for her age, to be fair to her. So, where are we? Billy Wilson Nee. So the way I attract players is to advertise and also knowing players through players in your own team already. It's also important you have a good league position the year before because players will look at that and then try their luck in getting into the squad. And generally, if you finish in the top 3, you'll attract good players. I know it's hard due to COVID for parents to stump up $2,000, but if parents believe the vision you're giving them and their sons, they will pay the money. But and it cut out, so I'm guessing maybe if I switch to this, I can see the thing. Nah, he must have run out of the room, so I'm guessing he's going to type some more. But on that question, so for myself, when I went to Dandy City, and they will admit this, when I went there, they were Dandy Shitty. That was their nickname. And everyone just came down to give us a slap, and that was the go. And it seems to be the way with the teams I take over. I've never been given a championship team. I always end up with teams that are struggling for some reason.
Because the teams that are doing well aren't getting rid of coaches.
Yeah,
mate.
well, fair point, mate. Fair point. Billy Wilson, nil. No, I forgot to add. Fair enough. So when I went to Dandy City, I knew that I was going into a massive rebuild. So we had the trials, players come in, and there was some quality there and all that sort of stuff. So we worked on that. And for me, the second season is where I really knew I could make a push, because I took that team. We finished quite well in the table, probably the best finish they'd had in many years. We also won the Crow Cup, which was awesome. Really good experience. We won the Crow Cup. And to see that team, for people that were in the NPL and knew, to see that team has come from a club that's been struggling and done really well, that starts to get people's attention as well. So, and then I ended up with players, like absolute quality players. I ended up with this guy, Riley Banks-Fay from Bentley Greens, Billy Wilson, Neil, he probably knows him. This kid, mate, we went and played Bentley Greens, and they were playing this kid at left back. Fastest kid I've seen. Shoots both feet, crosses both feet, passes both feet. Insane talent. And they were playing him at left back, and, we were playing away, blah, blah, blah. It gets to the end of the game, and I can't remember if it was his mum or his dad came over and had a bit of a chat with me, and what did you think about my boy? And, as parents do. And he had a few friends in my team as well, so there was a bit of back and forth chat with them. And I said, I think he's sensational. I just think he's being played in the wrong position. And anyway, they turn up to the trials the next pre-season, and we get him, and he goes on to score, I think, something like 26 goals in 12 games in the NPL, playing on the wing for me. Just lit it up. Absolutely lit it up. We did fitness testing because I was coaching the under 20s, under 18s and under 14s at the time. He was in the under 14s. Fastest player in the club, over 10, 20, 30 and 40 metres. Just absolute talent.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just comes from, similar situations to what I'm in now with some of the offers I'm getting from different clubs, your club included. If you're doing, if people can see what you're doing and your heart's in the right place, they will come to you. They'll seek you out.
Yep. Definitely.
Billy Wilson, nil. Yeah, we played against him. Costa kept him in his back pocket. Costa is another quality player. Absolute quality player. Really good defender. So the one weakness with Riley was he's a kid that's had a lot go on in his life, and his mental space wasn't always the best. So you sort of really had to work with him before games, during games, after games to keep him on track and focused. And yeah, after I left, I had to leave because my nan got really sick. I had to go back home. He didn't score another goal for the rest of the year, so I'm not too sure what happened there. But, have you had any players like that have sort of seemingly done outstanding for a coach, and then whether it's yourself or someone else, and then for whatever reason, the coach has moved on and the player's just not been at that same level?
Yeah, I think so. I think in the girls' game as well, mate, it's more the relationship between players and coaches is huge.
Yeah, 100%.
I think I did it I've got one player who I get on really well with. She's followed me to Casey, and I hope she follows me for the rest of her career. To be honest, wherever I end up at times, because she's done very well. There's one player at Casey who ended up being our captain, who I thought when I first went in Well, she ended up in that Sandy Bay did a vote on player. She got into the team of the season squad, and there's two players there that I didn't think, especially the girl from State One. I actually asked her, I said, would you ever get in? Would you ever see yourself in a State One team of the year sort of selection? She's like, no, never. And it just clicked. We sort of clicked as a pairing, and that works well. Likewise, I've coached some very good players that just thought I was an absolute dick, and it didn't work. It exactly that, mate. And you're asking them to do a job they maybe don't want to do, and the relationships are huge. Relationships are huge, mate.
Yeah, I mean,
and like you say, you're not going to please everyone.
yeah, I've found the same. Pretty much every football place I've been, and like I say to coaches all the time, you can know everything there is to know about football, but if the players don't want to play for you, it's irrelevant. It's pointless knowledge.
Well, look, mate, you're a Chelsea fan, right? Glenn Hoddle was one of the best footballers tactically, technically, was still a better player than anyone he was coaching in the Premier League when he was 50.
Yeah.
Right? Irrelevant because he was an absolute lunatic nut job. Like, everyone thought he was a weirdo.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily work like that. And I guess the proof in that is not many top players, not many managers were top. You're seeing more of an influx now of players, of coaches that used to be, professional footballers, but not a coaching career very early.
Yeah, 100%.
Because it's different. It's different. Coaching is a different game. It's a different side to the game, and it's a profession in its own right. And just because you were good at the bit before it doesn't mean you're going to smash the next.
100%, 100%. Anyway, I'm cautious of time. Have you got to head off there, or?
I've got 10 more minutes.
10 more minutes, beautiful. So we'll crack on. What's your big watch for the? Do you know what games are on in the Premier League this weekend?
No, mate. I'm an Arsenal fan, mate. I literally have no interest in the leagues because it's so like we could be the best team. Look, we were brilliant against Tottenham, but I think we played Brighton this weekend. We'll probably lose that
Brighton
game.
Have been on
So that would be my one to watch.
Tottenham versus Villa. Billy Wilson Neal says, "Yeah, I mean that's going to be a tough game. Villa have been playing really well this year. They've been a very tough team to beat." Probably the big talking point this weekend, mate, will be the Liverpool City game. I would imagine that will be the big one for the week. Liverpool Man City, top of the table clash, and I'm hoping a draw there and we get a win and we can pop top. United Everton.
Yep,
that will be a decent fixture.
He's on thin ice, by the way, I reckon.
He's got to be.
Ollie?
I mean, Ronaldo keeps saving his hide, to be fair.
Yeah, he's been given the money. He's been given the resources.
Yeah, he's running out of excuses not to win things now, for sure. Eddie McCullum Sr. says Tierney's the next captain of Arsenal. Probably a good shout.
Should probably be the current captain, but carry on.
Eddie's a bit of a fan of Arsenal because they keep bringing in the Scottish lads. Eddie's a Scottish lad himself. Billy Wilson, City will win that. I wouldn't be so sure, mate. Liverpool are a dangerous team.
But again, Matt, I go back to Liverpool at the back. I was actually genuinely shocked at how poor they were at the back against Brentford.
City at the front aren't great at the moment either, though, are they? Again, outside of the sort of bottom teams, Norwich and Arsenal, when Arsenal were in that slump, they haven't slapped anyone. I mean, like I said, Norwich, who are dead last, haven't got a point, and Arsenal were dead last at that point in time.
That's the thing, though. Like that, and good sides, if they're good defensively, they don't have to slap anyone, do they?
No, they don't.
It's a hell of a thing for a coach and a group of players to know if they score one goal, they're in with a right sniff of winning it. Liverpool don't have that.
Yeah.
Liverpool cannot have that. Arsenal cannot have that mentality that if we score one, we can hold this. So whereas Man City, they probably do.
Yeah, 100%. And they play nice football, to be fair to them. Chelsea have got Southampton. I'm not looking into that one too much. I think Southampton are a tricky team, and if you overlook them, you come undone, as City proved when they got that draw with them the other week.
Yeah.
What do we got? Wolves, Newcastle. Wolves need to get a win on the table there, I would imagine, being at home.
See, that game excites me.
Say that again, sorry?
that game excites me probably more than any of the others you've mentioned.
It's going to be a cracker.
Because they both need a proper
Yeah,
result.
yeah. And that's where you're going to get some good football happening for sure. Phil Ware. So, how many non-ex-pro players get to the top in the coaching world? I doubt there's many that didn't play professionally at some level. Phil Ware, for one, I'm pretty confident Mourinho never played professional football, and that's a bit of a feather. He's a half decent coach, to be fair.
They played professional. They played professional football. Grant you. I think that's kind of almost a prerequisite. I know Sarri never did.
Yeah, Sarri never did.
But
I don't think Mourinho played professional.
Predominantly, they would have played professional. But I'm talking proper top level world class players making it in the coaching game. Few and far between.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Mourinho never played pro. I think semi-pro was the highest he played.
I think it'd be impossible to go into the professional game as a coach without experience of being a professional footballer. Because if I went in to be the CEO of a bank, just because I'd read books and been on the courses, I'd fail.
But then Sarri's done a very good job.
It's a different. Look, you're gonna have anomalies, but most of them you'd have to have an experience of the pro game. But I'm talking. So we imagine Lionel Messi to go and be a coach?
I'd say Ronaldo.
Probably not.
Ronaldo, probably. I reckon. But we'll see. We'll see. He's at least going to have a crack at it, Ronaldo. He's at least going to have a crack.
You're seeing a few more give it a go. Look, Patrick Vieira's obviously, he would have been world class in his time, and you kind of find a few more go into the background sort of stuff, technical director, head of academy type stuff, and where it's pure football knowledge that counts rather than relationship building.
Yeah, 100%. Billy Wilson, Neil's prediction: Everton 2, Man United 1. Leeds Watford. I think that'll be another good game because that's another two teams really needing a result. They really need to get cracking. Leeds, especially if they're going to live up to last year's expectations.
Burnley, yeah. I like. Again, Leeds frustrate me. I would hate to be a Leeds fan.
Yeah, I've got one of my good mates is a Leeds fan, and they're doing his head in. Christopher FC, he says City drew with Southampton a few weeks ago, lost to PSG yesterday. I wouldn't be so sure they beat us. Crucifying our defence after one game is a little harsh, especially seeing as we had conceded one before that. Yeah, before the Brentford game. Yeah, fair enough.
Fair point.
Fair enough. Burnley Norwich, again, two teams desperate for results. Norwich especially. I'm really disappointed with how Norwich are doing given the list they've got.
Yeah, again, football clubs are businesses now, mate. Getting into the Premier League, not spending too much money, drop back out, build again. There's a money-making aspect to it. She's not selling as many cookbooks as she used to, mate.
And then Brighton Arsenal, which I think will be another good game. Arsenal obviously need to get some points on the board to get back up the right end, and Brighton are flying at the moment. They almost went top of the table this weekend. If they won this weekend, they would have been top.
Yeah, Brighton a good side. Potter's not a bad coach, mate. He's another one that's.
I thought they had a bad run of luck last year because you look at the way they play and you can see there's a clear vision and a way they play, and I like the way they play. I think they play really good football. I don't think the way they play reflected fairly in the results. Maybe we're starting to see it come to fruition now.
They're a good club as well, mate. They're a good club. I remember going to watch the game at Brighton when they played at the Withdean. It would have been 2008 in the middle of December at the Withdean, which for anyone who doesn't know was a epoxy tiny athletics track. Away fans were 30 metres behind one goal. So actually, that was a sad, depressing sight. So it was quite good. It's quite nice to see what they've got now and how they've recovered.
Yeah. Billy Wilson, Neil. I don't think Ronaldo will be a good coach because of his ego, and it all depends if he can take his knowledge as a player into a coach. Yeah, 100%. Christopher Brighton played well last season.
Yeah.
We're unlucky not to finish higher up the table. Yeah, 100%. Anyway, mate, I know you've got to get cracking. I've got to also.
I have, mate.
I've also got to start making a
Been
move.
pleasure, mate.
So, mate, awesome to have you on. Thank you very much for coming on.
Anytime, mate.
There's some really good questions in
fun.
there as well from the chat, which was good. So,
Yeah, mate, look, the interactive nature of it and stuff is decent. Like I was going to say to you as well, like if you're not bored of listening to me whittle on, have a listen to the podcast that I did last year. Like,
awesome.
That's how we met. Eh?
Yeah.
You got in touch with me when you listened to it.
Yeah, 100%. I forgot to plug that. So what I'll do for anyone that's watching or watches later, I will throw up a little bit of a plug for the podcast. It's more around the mental health around football and stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it was just interviews with people about sport and mental health and different things like that, and it's it was interesting. Got some good guests on in the end. Yeah.
You need to restart.
So haven't done it.
To restart that. But yeah, honestly, well worth a watch.
If I had the time, I'd be on it.
Shoot us the link and I'll get it up. But yeah, so he's Dean Wixon's podcast. It's on Spotify. Really.
It's called Sport, Mental Health, and it's all COVID-19's fault.
Yeah.
It's have a listen and really good, mate. Football forum, decent.
It's kind of similar to the show. It's a nice sort of relaxed. You feel like you're just having a chat. And that's what I wanted this to be. I want to get some good interviews on, but I want it to be more relaxed, not so much of that formal sort of staged. I want it to be a bit more natural. So yeah, awesome, man. Yeah. Thanks for coming on. I'll let you head on. And we'll catch up soon, mate.
I'll talk to you soon.
All right, mate. Chat soon.
Yeah. Bye.
Alrighty, so that was Dean Wixon. Thanks for everyone for joining in. If you do have any other questions for Dean, feel free to shoot them through to me. I'm more than happy to ask him. If we get enough questions, maybe we'll bring him on again. Reece Aubrey, oi, how you doing, brother? Good to see you. Phil, Jose Mourinho played nearly 100 games in the Portuguese leagues. Yeah, but I'm sure I read somewhere he was a semi-professional. I don't think he was professional. Even still, Jose Mourinho himself said he wasn't a good player at all. Sort of by professional standards anyway, Phil, to be fair. Bago Evan, good night, fellas. Stay safe. Love the format and discuss environment. Looking forward to the Comets now. Haven't heard of them. So they're in Cranbourne, Evan, Casey Comets. Their men are a State 1 team. The women are Victorian Premier League. Decent club. I've been in and out of the club watching games since I come over here because they were really close to me. I live just down the road from them when I first come over from England, so I used to go down there and watch a few of their games. And obviously Dean Wixon, quality coach. Obviously you're not getting into teams like Charlton Athletic if you're not quality. So really good to have him on the show. Dawn Rennie Stones just liked the stream. She's the Casey Comets president. Just a good little club based out in Cranbourne. And so there you go, Evan. Did we miss any chats? Oh yeah, Remy. No Trent Alexander-Arnold for Liverpool. No Thiago Keita. It's 50-50. So I think we may just lack a bit in the middle. Yeah, I mean, that's two big outs, mate. Two big outs. Absolutely no doubt about that. Reece says, like the stream. Thanks for liking the stream, brother. To be honest, Remy, I need you guys to get a draw. We need to get a win against Southampton. Because we've had two poor games. We played very well against Juventus, to be fair, in the Champions League. Lost 1-0, but we dominated the ball, had loads of shots, only one on target. Is a bit disappointing. Two disappointing results in a row. And so hopefully we can get back on track. Anyway, that will just about do it. That was a nice, good, flowing chat. That was good fun. If there's anyone else you guys would like to see on the stream, any guests, feel free to reach out. More than happy to take suggestions. I'll do everything I can to get who you guys want to see on the stream. Obviously, keep watching the Facebook page. That's when we make our announcements on who the guests are, all that good stuff. I'm going to wrap it up. I've got work tomorrow. I'm getting tired. So it's been a pleasure. Really good to see how active the stream was tonight. Thanks again, guys. And just remember, we are all going through tough times, so please check in on each other. If you do need support, you can reach out to me, reach out to your friends, family, get professional help. There's no shame in it. Stick by each other, guys. Let's get through these tough times together and hopefully we can get back on the pitch nice and soon for those of you that are involved. And yeah, really appreciate the support, guys. Thank you very much. Catch you soon.